Fiat has an agreement to buy the U.S. Treasury's remaining 6% stake in Chrysler, so that lifts Fiat's stake in Chrysler to 52% and cuts the U.S. government's final ties to the automaker. Our next guest has stated his ambition to combine Chrysler and Fiat into a single automaker with a global footprint. We are joined right now by the CEO of the Chrysler Group, Sergio Marchionne. He is with us from Auburn Hills, Michigan. Mr. Marchionne, thanks for joining us this morning. The option to buy the UAW Health Trust shares eliminates the need for Chrysler to conduct an IPO. What does that mean? Are the chances of the IPO growing stronger or less likely as of today?
We haven't made a decision on the IPO. The objective here is to find a way to deal with the other shareholder of Chrysler, which is the VEBA trust that converted part of the obligation of Chrysler into an equity interest in Chrysler, and we need to find a way to monetize that interest. And the IPO, as I repeated yesterday, is probably still remains the easiest way for us to put money into the trust. There are other ways to get there, but the IPO remains certainly one of the easiest and most efficient ways of accomplishing the final redemption of Chrysler as a car maker and a return of that entity into an accountability environment where it's only accountable to the capital market.
But some point out, I mean, why would an investor go for an IPO when he or she could just buy stock in Fiat? It would be more direct.
They could, and that raises another issue, which is the issue of corporate governance and why you would not ultimately look at a combined entity. The real issue for me is not necessarily the IPO as an exercise. It is a way of effectively getting to a full integration of these businesses and having a global car company that hopefully, as a result of all the efforts that we have put into this business, will end up being one of the 5 entities that survives the shakeout on the car side. So the IPO itself of Chrysler is important from a raising of capital standpoint. It can be done in other ways. Ultimately, we need to look at one entity on a combined basis, and whether it's an IPO of Chrysler in the U.S. to get it done, or an expansion of Fiat's shareholding base, we're open to all options. We need to examine them. There really is no immediate urgency to get that done within 2011 because the remaining pieces of the shareholding structure have now been cleaned up. We have taken out UST. We have taken out the equity recapture that they had on the VEBA interest, and we're negotiating with the Canadians to take out the remaining piece. So hopefully there'll be 2 shareholders by the end of this dance.
But getting back to the idea of not necessarily creating a combined entity, that seems to be a split from what you stated in your past as your ambition to combine the two.
No, I've always had the view, and I confirm it again, maybe I wasn't clear, there needs to be one car company that emerges from all this.
Okay.
I'm a lot less concerned about how that happens than I am about the end objective.
All right.
One of the things that we must do in that travel is that we need to find a way to monetize the interest of the VEBA beneficiaries to fund the future claims on that trust.
Yeah, no one really knows. I know you have to negotiate a purchase price with the trust fund. I mean, what is the range? Some back of the envelope accounting seems to be between $3.5 billion, $4 billion. Does that sound about right?
Certainly you and I shouldn't be negotiating that price on the air.
I'm not negotiating, but just trying to get an idea of what you're dealing with.
Well, look, I mean, if you figure out that 6% of this entity was worth about $500 million,
that's what we did.
The math on what the value of the value of this organization is relatively clear. It was pegged at slightly over $8 billion, and a 41% interest of $8 billion is worth what it's worth today. That's a good indication. It's a good indication of what this thing will get.
All right.
Today.
What it could get today. But there's no, I heard you say, pressure on timing. There's no benefit to doing it this year. There's no penalty for doing it this year.
There's no penalty for not doing it now, and certainly there's no obligation for us to do it this year.
All right.
And under the rules, the VIBA Trust can only require registration of their interest in 2013. So we have a long way to go, and I think if they wanted to wait and effectively see this value accretion happen over time, we'd be quite willing to let them do that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Marchionne, for your time. Sergio Marchionne, CEO of Chrysler and Fiat.